Okay, here's one of my own games. I played it yesterday night during a league competition. We played against a very strong team. They are at the moment the #1 team in our group, and I was playing on board number 3 against a player rated 2022. Myself, I'm 1812, so there was a huge rating difference, but still I could play the game on a quite equal level for a long time, but I went wrong in the end game. It was a very difficult rook ending, and well, the game is actually quite long, so I'll probably make 2 videos, one of the opening and middle game, and another one about the end game. So here we have knight to d7. I decided to take on c5, on d5 myself. This is an idea that actually changes the pawn structure, in the sense that now white has a minority on the queen side and the c files half open, and this gives sometimes the possibility later to have a minority attack by white. So that means that white starts working with these 2 pawns with the idea of trading them for 2 pawns of black, and then leaving 1 weak pawn black on the queen side, and then attack it with the pieces. That's the general idea of the minority attack. I played bishop to f4, placing on this beautiful diagonal, c6, e3. Now I played bishop to e7, and there is a threat, knight to h5, and then I would have to trade my beautiful bishop for this knight, and I don't want to do that. So I played h3 with the idea of, if knight h5, then play bishop h2. He went with this knight to f8, and now I continued my development, and he played the knight to g6, attacking my bishop, and the bishop goes to h2 as planned. And black was really willing to trade this dark square bishop, so he played bishop d6, and now I did something that was a little adventurous. I didn't trade on d6 immediately, but I played knight to e5. Now my idea of this move was that if he takes on e5, there's 2 ways of taking. Of course, one is loses immediately. If knight takes e5, then d takes e5 wins a piece because of this fork. And if bishop takes e5, my plan was to take, and after knight to d7, to trade on g6 first, and then to play e4. And I found that this position would be promising for me. But my opponent didn't take on e5. After knight e5, he played queen to e7, putting more pressure on e5 and threatening to take. So now I had no choice than to take on g6 with the knight myself. Took back with the h pawn, and now I had to trade on d6. So we get this position that is quite equal, and now I start with my idea of trying to put up a minority attack. First playing a3 with the idea of playing b4 and b5 later. He played bishop to f5, and I continued with my idea b4. He exchanged just this bishop on d3, and now he plays a6 to stop b5. And here I was thinking, what can I do to activate my rook on h1, because I would like to use both rooks on this side to start advancing, continue advancing my pawns, put my h rook on b1, and then play a4 and b5 probably. But on the other hand, I don't want to leave my king in the center, especially if later this will be open. Then there is a possibility of him attacking my king on this side. So I started calculating how dangerous it would be to castle, and I came to the conclusion that it was possible to castle kingside. Now it looks at first sight quite dangerous, but it's not. A move like knight to g4, for example, threatening mate on h2. If I take, then still there is mate on h2. If I cannot play g3 because then h3 falls, but I can play f4, and then the whole attack of black is actually simply over. He has to go back with the knight now to f6, and now I can play e4. So this was, I wasn't afraid for this. So after castling, he played the other move that looks attacking, and that is g5, threatening to come to play g4. And I replied in the center, e4. Now he took on e4, he took with knight, he took my knight, and I took with check. And now the king goes to f8. So what we see now is that black can play the rook later to e8 and having this this e-file. Now to prevent that, I played my rook to e1, and now he played a rook to h4. This is a move that I had missed. I hadn't seen it before when I played this e4 move. I hadn't seen this possibility, and I don't have to lose this d4 pawn because I still have queen to e5. That's what I played. He took on e5, and now I cannot take with the rook, because if I take with the rook, then he has f6, and after f6 then the d4 pawn will fall. So that means that I have to take here with the pawn, d takes e5. And now he played rook to d8, and I wanted to get rid of this weakness now, because it's not very easy to defend this e5 pawn. So I played e6 with the idea of trading it for the f pawn. Of course, he cannot avoid the trade of playing f6, because then I advance my own pawn to e7. So, oh, sorry, like that. So he played rook to d3. Now I took on f7, and he took back. So we have this ending that is coming, and it is an ending of both two rooks, equal amount of pawns. He has two weak pawns here, but there is a big difference in activity. Black has two very active rooks, while especially my rook on a1 is not active. So that's why this ending can be better for white. And at this moment I played the rook to e3, but it would have been better to activate my rooks more by playing rook a to d1, because then if he takes on a3, I can give a check on d7. If king g6, then I take on b7, and now there are two weaknesses here. And if then queen c4 defending the c6 pawn, then I can play my other rook to the 7th rank, threatening to take on g7. So this idea of playing here rook a to d1 would actually be much better, because then I would activate my rooks in the ending. So this was the first actually mistake that I made. Well, maybe not the first one, but let's say the first clear endgame mistake, playing rook to e3, because he took on e3 and then he went with the rook to c4, and now after king f2, rook c3, my rook is bound to the defense of a3. Okay, I'll stop the video now because I have talked already for 10 minutes, and I'll continue the game in a second video. Okay, bye bye.